Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the steps to create enamel pins in Illustrator. So the point of this tutorial would be to present ideas to a client for any pins they may be commissioning you to design. So this is what you would present to them, and then they would take it to a manufacturer who would then produce them. So the manufacturer would determine what types of files that you would present to them in order for them to be created. So this is the part of the phase that is concept only. So creating the pins, making them look realistic enough in Illustrator so the client gets an idea of what a final pin would look like. So there are some really easy steps to put these together. So I'm going to show you how to create the popsicle ones that you see on screen, the sun and the snowflake. I actually have a tutorial on how to create those anyway. I'll leave a link to those in the video description. You can go over and see how to make those, and then you can just follow the steps in this video to make them look like pins. So for the sake of time, we're just going to focus directly on these popsicle pins, and then you'll be all set for doing this if you ever need to do it in the future for a client or just for yourself. So as you can see, we've got the brass kind of look, so it looks like metal, and then we've got a subtle drop shadow on it to look like it's got a little more depth. So this brass color is actually just a gradient made up of three colors, which are these three colors right here. So I'm going to give you these three colors. We're going to build our gradient, then we're going to make our popsicle and then apply that to all of these different elements, making it a little more complex. So over here, I'm going to give you these color builds first. I'm working in RGB, so everything's super vibrant on screen since these wouldn't technically be printed anyway. They are concept only. So this is one of the colors right here. This is the lightest color, and then this one is the darkest color. So I'm going to show you how to bring these colors into a gradient, which we're going to eyedropper when we need it after we create our popsicles. So let me show you how to make that gradient. The first thing I do is I pop out my gradient palette right here. So I just actually pull it out right here like that. And I also keep my color palette over here opened up. So make sure you don't have any of these selected as you're dragging colors, otherwise it's going to apply it to your actual colors right here. So what I do is I just click on one of these colors and then click away from it. And when I clicked on it, it already dropped it into my color palette right here. And all I do is click on this and I drag it into my gradient right here. So then I'm going to grab the next color, which is this lighter color, deselect it, and now I can click and drag it into here. Since I have four colors now, I can get rid of my white and my black, and I'm going to slide this one all the way to the left and then this lighter color right next to it. And now I'm going to select my dark color and then deselect it and drag my dark color in. Okay, so now I'm in pretty good shape, but I need these two replicated. So what I'm going to do is this medium, light, dark, and then medium, light to finish it off. So I can just hold Alt, click, and drag, and this will make a copy of this one. And then I can do the same thing over here. Select it, hold Alt, click, and drag, and it will make a copy just like that. Okay, so we're all set. So we've got this nice gradient. And what I usually do is just draw out a shape. So I just hit M on my keyboard, draw out a shape, and now I've got this gradient where I can eyedropper this gradient. I don't ever have to worry about rebuilding it. It's just a really nice way to make the workflow a little quicker and to keep everything really straightforward as you work. So I just have a shape drawn out that has this gradient in it. And as I apply it, I'm going to actually change the angle to 45 degrees right here so it just seems a little more realistic. Okay, so I can pop my gradient palette back over here. And now I am all set to get started. So we're just going to make our little popsicle right here. It's really easy shape building exercise. So if you're new to Illustrator, you can totally do this. So what I do is I grab my rounded rectangle tool right here. Let me eyedropper this red color. And I actually just grabbed that red color from my color swatches right over here. It's this one. So what I'm going to do is just with my rounded rectangle tool right here, I'm just going to draw out a rectangle. And this is new for Adobe Illustrator Creative Cloud. These smart corners make it a lot easier. I have a watercolor popsicle tutorial on how to do this if you don't have Creative Cloud, but I'm going to show you a quick workaround if you are in Creative Cloud. It makes this whole process much quicker. So what you need to do is, I'm just going to grab my selection tool right here. You can just click on these smart corners and then I'll drag them in. And I want it to be more oval at the top, but then I need my base to be more rectangular right here. So it looks a little more like a popsicle. So in order to change these bottom ones independently of these top ones, you're just going to select, so hopefully you can see this. So this node is darkened right here, and then I'm going to hold Shift and select the other one. So these two are selected, and then I can drag these two back out to make it more rectangular. And you can see I maintained the extreme curve up at the top. So this is all set. This is the top of my popsicle. And if you want to add a drip onto it, like I did right here, the way that I do that is I just come over here, grab my ellipse tool, hold shift so you can create a circle, click on this top anchor point right here, and then just drag it up, and then I'll give you a quick drip, and then you can just position it wherever you'd like. And that's all set. And now we just need the popsicle stick right here. So I just once again grab my rounded rectangle tool and I just freehand it out. And this seems a little too round for me, so I'm just going to drag all of these out a little further with my smart corners, which is a super handy feature in Illustrator. Okay, so this one I just grabbed this dark brown color right here and then send it to the back. All right, so if I want to make sure my stick is centered in line with the meat of my popsicle right here, I'm just going to select the popsicle, hold shift, select the stick, and then click on the popsicle one more time so it gets this dark outline, and then this will reorient itself based on this popsicle's position. So I'm just going to hit this icon right here for horizontal line center, and it popped it right into the middle of my popsicle. So I'm all set. So I've got my popsicle all ready to go. Now I want it to have a flat top. You can see it's kind of behind it right now. So in order to do that, I'm just going to remove these points up here and then hit A on my keyboard and then just drag these handles straight down to keep these straight. And this is going to come in handy in a little bit. So I'm going to show you how that works because you can see I've got this space right here. So we're going to create that in a little bit. All right, so from here we can apply this gold or this brass around it, and then we can add in our final details afterwards. So I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to make it a little smaller so we can see everything together. All right, so what we want to do is we want a copy of this because we're going to merge all of these shapes together, and you're going to see how that works in just a minute. So I'm going to group these together. I'm going to create a copy, Command-C or Control-C on a PC, deselect, and then hit Command F or Control F on a PC to paste a copy of it right in front. Now I'm going to merge all these shapes together. You can see if I move it, I've got two copies right here. So on the top copy, I'm going to come over here to my Pathfinder palette. You can get to your Pathfinder palette by going Window, Pathfinder, and you're just going to hit this first icon right here for Unite. So click that and it will merge this entire shape together. You can see it totally changed color to the red. So from here, we need it to be a little bit larger than our actual popsicle because this is the brass that goes around that makes up your pin. So in order to do that, you're just going to go Object, Path, Offset Path. And you want to make sure Preview is selected, and you can see how much distance from the original shape this is becoming. And you can reduce it or play around with it. I think 0.025 is a good distance. That feels good. So I'm going to hit OK. And you can see I've got a shape inside and I've got a shape outside, and I can select the shape inside and I can delete that now. And this wider shape, we're going to send it to the back. So you can right click, arrange, send it back, or you can use this keyboard shortcut, Shift Command open bracket or Shift Control open bracket on a PC. And that sends it to the back, but now we need to color it that brass. So that's where we return to the shape of the gradient that we have. So you're just going to hit I on your keyboard and eyedropper that, and it'll pop it in there. But whenever you eyedropper a gradient, it resets the angle. So if I come back over to my gradient palette, you can see it's at an angle of 0 now. So we're just going to change this to 45, and that will make it seem a little more realistic right here. So that's looking really good. So we are moving right along. So the next thing we're going to do is adjust this popsicle so it looks like it's got a little more depth, especially when you look at it from far away. I love that kind of depth effect that it creates. So what we're going to do is select your bottom popsicle. We can ungroup this now. So Command Shift G or Control Shift G on a PC. Select your stick, hit A on your keyboard for your direct select tool. Click on this top anchor point, hold Shift, and click on the other anchor point, and then you're just going to drag it down, and as you're dragging, hold Shift so everything stays straight. And then I like dragging it down so it kind of lines up with where this picks up right here, the brass. So that looks really good. And now we're just going to hit M on our keyboard, create a rectangle right on top of it, and we're just going to make this a little bit darker. So you can grab this darker one right here from your swatches palette, or you can just input a color build of your own that's darker. So now if we zoom out, you can see that depth effect is really working, and the only thing we have left are these lines in the popsicle to make it feel a little more like a popsicle. So we're just going to zoom in here. We're going to grab our rounded rectangle tool again over here, and you're just going to click and drag it out. And once again, you can adjust those corners if you need to, but I like the way they look. And I'm going to switch this so we have a stroke over here instead of a fill. And we want to change this stroke to having a gradient instead of a color. And I'm not sure which version of Illustrator changed it so you can apply a gradient within a stroke. But if you have an older version of Illustrator and it's not working, that's why. The newer versions allow you to apply a pattern and a gradient in a stroke, whereas before it would only let you apply it to fills. So with your stroke up in the front, we're just going to click this little gradient right here, and it's going to pop in the gradient within our stroke. And once again, we want to make sure that 45 degrees is the angle, and that one did carry in since we popped it in from this palette right here. So from here, we're just going to duplicate this. So hold Alt, click, and drag. While you're dragging, hold Shift. And then we want to make sure that these are in line with the rest of the popsicle. So with both of these selected, I'm going to group them together, and then I'm going to hold Shift and select the main part of the popsicle, click on the popsicle once again, and hit this horizontal align center so everything is nice and centered. And now we want to make sure that we expand the strokes so these become shapes instead of strokes, because if we enlarge this, these will get smaller as you scale up. So in order to maintain consistency, and it's fine to have them as a shape anyway, once you're happy with the thickness, you're just going to go Object, Expand, hit OK, and now we are all set. So that is how to create a popsicle enamel pin in Illustrator. If you'd like to apply a drop shadow like these to give it a little extra depth and realism, just select your outside brass right here, come over to your appearance palette, and then toggle down this FX icon and choose Stylize Drop Shadow. And then these are the settings that I like using. You can preview them. You can see it's very subtle, and I like how subtle it is. I don't want to detract from the actual design of the pen. So these are the settings that I use for mine. So hit OK. And now we've got our popsicle pin. So once again, if you follow my tutorial on how to create a snowflake, you can do the exact same steps and make a sun, and then just come over here and follow the same steps to apply that enamel look to it. So that's how to create an enamel pin in Illustrator. Once again, you would provide these to a client to get approval, and then these could be manufactured once they're approved. And you want to always talk to the manufacturer about what files that they would expect or need in order to produce these pins. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. I release a new design tutorial every single Tuesday, and don't forget to head on over to my blog, every-tuesday.com, for even more design tutorials and a bunch of design freebies. And once again, links to everything mentioned within this tutorial are right in the video description. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.